Hello and welcome back to Dukascopy TV. Now today we're looking at emerging markets, but perhaps an area geographically of the world that's not necessarily talked about that much in finance, especially when it comes to investments, but plenty is going on, and I'm talking about Africa. Well, joining me in the studio is Eric Vazey of the law firm MMVR. Eric, welcome.
Good afternoon, Thomas. Thank you for your kind invitation.
You're welcome. Now, looking at the continent of Africa, it might seem like an obvious question to you, maybe to some others watching, but what is the sort of most attractive investment in Africa at the moment?
Thomas, as you know, now Africa has become a very important place, a very important destination for most investors who are trying to capturing big business opportunities all around the world. I would say that, in my point of view, if we talk about the most attractive investment, I could range them from agricultures, food, drink, energy, social houses, and mining.
Okay, I mean, so if those are some of the key areas of investment in Africa, who are the big players? I mean, who are the most active in Africa right now?
I would say definitely investors from the UK, France, and China are driving most of the continent deal activity. First of all, about the UK, they have invest very, very massively in Africa. We are talking about more than 30.5 billion US dollar. Secondly, we have France. France is the second most prolific investor in Africa with about 30.5 billion US dollar. And finally, China is the third largest investor by value, about 20.8 billion US dollar.
And what are those countries really looking for in Africa? What's the big appeal? Because, you know, on the surface you could say that it's a continent that has an incredible history, in some cases quite sad, and you have such vast amounts of land, much of it is barren desert. You mentioned to me that, you know, agriculture, diamonds, mining, so on. But what's the long-term goal for these countries? What are they looking for in investing in Africa?
They are looking for profits, you know. I would say that Africa is just a market. And people, as investors, they should consider the country as just a market. And in Africa, you have the opportunity to achieve a very, very big return of investment.
Mm-hmm. Okay. One thing I'm interested in is the sort of involvement recently of Switzerland in Africa. The Swiss have been taking a big interest in investing in Africa. In what way and why?
I would say that just because Africa becomes a credible investment destination, I would just give you two facts. During the last 10 years, African continent has registered annual growth rates over 5%. Also, Africa offers the world's highest rates of return. We are talking about around plus 21%. It's just huge. So you can just easily understand the interests of Swiss or Russian company in Africa.
And do those Swiss and Russian companies, especially the Swiss being fairly new players to the market, do they understand the idea of the impact that their investment may have on the societies in the various countries within Africa? Because unlike developed nations where, you know, you come in and you do business, you trade, you know, the continent is quite delicate in some areas. Do they understand that, you know, that they have to report on the impact?
I think that because of the history, they should and they really understand it very, very well. Because you know, for example, we have the same languages, If at the opposite, for example, from Chinese, in Africa, European countries, they have something common. And when they invest there, of course, they are sensitive about those points.
Okay. China has been building infrastructure for some time now in Africa. You could argue maybe China have suddenly brought attention to the likes of the United States, to Russia, that really investing in Africa is beneficial to them and to their companies, regardless of the impact as a result. How will Russian and Swiss companies compete with China so entrenched in Africa and in the sense of infrastructure-wise?
Okay, I understand. I would say that there is no monopoly about investment opportunity in Africa. What did the Chinese did some time ago? They have just considered Africa as a market. And I would say that right now they were fully right. Let me give me just one favor. By 2050, there will be more than 2 billion people in Africa. Somebody has to feed them. Somebody has to transport them. Somebody has to entertain them. And somebody has to build houses for them, and so on. It's a huge market. For this reason, Russian company, Swiss company has a very strong knowledge, and I'm sure that they could compete in Africa with Chinese company.
Let's hope so. Well, we'll have to watch and wait and see. But Eric, thank you very much for coming into the studio today.
Thank you again, Thomas, for your kind invitation. It was a pleasure.
Not a problem. That's all for the moment here on Dukascopy TV. We'll continue to bring you updates and interviews throughout the day. But thanks for watching. From now, from me, bye-bye.